get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hey guys, before we jump in, this episode is brought to you by the Transportation Intermediaries Association, the only trade association exclusively representing the 3PL industry. We talk about risk management every single week on this show. Chameleon carriers, strategic theft, brokers are under a microscope like never before. This is why you need the TIA in your corner. The TIA isn't just about networking. They provide a powerful voice in Washington, the best legal frameworks in the business, and a community that holds the line on ethics and excellence, not to mention valuable certifications. They do the work so you can scale securely and with confidence. The Transportation Intermediaries Association, connecting freight, powering the supply chain. Don't operate on an island. Join the elite. Go to tianet.org and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Memorial Day weekend to everyone. I'm sure a lot of you are already checked out at the lake, on your way out of town, whatever that looks like. I know a lot of the out of offices I've already been receiving from people today. So that figures, which, again, I hope you guys all have a safe and happy weekend out there. But today we are going to be riding solo. We are going to be breaking down some industry headlines. Obviously, there's, one of the bigger headlines that's out there right now. And, I'm going to try and give an unbiased opinion on what I see happening with this, right? And how this could progress downstream. So it's going to be an interesting time out there. But with that being said, it's Friday, and that means it is the flatbed lane analysis day today. So again, you guys, This Week in Freight is powered by my friends over at DAT. And again, if you want in on this, if you want me to break down your lane or a lane you have a question on or how to read it, email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. And we'll break it down. I just need shipping city, delivery city, and trailer type. We do dry van, reefer, and flatbed out there. And we are here I'm just trying to give you guys insight on how I read freight markets out there. So this one, you guys, it is flatbed. It is San Antonio, Texas, going to Denver, Colorado. And when I was looking at this, I was actually shocked that it was only at $43.50 for the 30-day market rate going on out there. But, again, no matter what, you guys, always the first thing I look at when I'm assessing lanes is the miles, okay? Why is that? Transit time matters. Time to hold the freight matters. You're probably seeing that this weekend, especially with that added day on there, and most places closed on Monday, and a lot of these guys aren't going to be able to deliver to Tuesday. So you've probably heard about that upcharge, and you find that more often than you think. It's not just a holiday weekend. How many times have your customers hit you up to move a load from Friday to Monday, but it is only about 800-900 miles, and you start hearing higher rates from people because they want to run longer miles. They don't want to drive and sit and stuff like that. So that's a big factor, and especially at that 1,000 or the 950 mile mark, which you see on this one from San Antonio going into Denver. Obviously, this one has spiked up here, just like with every lane did with inspection week and everything that you see. But, again, most importantly, you guys, you need to know the market that your freight is going into. All right. Because I look at it like this. If you're new to assessing a lane, or if this is a new lane for your customer, how easy is it going to be for the driver to get a shipment out of there? Is there going to be any deadhead miles associated with that going into that market? Are they going to sit there for a few days? Denver is one of those markets for drive-ins, flatbeds, and reefers. It's one of those ones where the probability of them getting reloaded out of there it's less than other lanes that would ship out of the San Antonio market. So you're going to want to factor that in there, and you're probably going to hear that from your carrier partners, unless you have a Denver-based carrier or you have somebody who is going to tell you like, hey, I'll take this load, but let me get a load out of there first before I commit to it. So those are some of those factors that you're going to be faced with as you're reading certain lanes. Rest assured, you guys, a lot of these markets that you come into this with, it's like that. It's been like that every single year I've been in the industry. So it's not like these creep up every now and then. But, the national average right now for flatbed rates is about that 440 a mile is what you're seeing out there. Not on every single lane, right? And I just use that as a reference point because this is one of those rare times that it aligns with the rates that we're seeing out there. But again, you got to look at it where going in to Denver is always going to pose its challenges. And this isn't just out of San Antonio. This is any lane that you move going into Denver is going to pose some capacity challenges at times, specifically right now. A couple months ago, probably wasn't a problem to find trucks going into Denver. But now with everything that's going on out there, increased fuel prices, everything, it's a less likelihood that you're going to find a plethora of drivers looking to go in there. So you're going to want to take that into consideration. Some of our core carriers that we work with extensively, they've told us, they're like, hey, with fuel being what it is, we don't even send our trucks out west anymore because fuel prices are exponentially higher. And you start to see that direct correlation into some of these lanes, you guys, that are heading out west or into those softer outbound markets like a Denver, Colorado. So you want to pay attention to that one. I wouldn't be surprised if you see this lane creeping up even higher, pushing towards that $5 a mile mark here coming up. Again, I could be wrong. I see that trending that way throughout the summer. I mean, we move freight into Denver for another shipper of ours, not out of Texas. And we've definitely seen a rate increase in there so far. But again, pay attention to this stuff, you guys, because it's an opportunity. No matter what, everything we're going through right now in the industry is an opportunity. And it's one of those ones where you really find out, do you actually love freight? Or have you been just doing this for a job for these last couple of years? But that lane, you guys, San Antonio to Denver, pay attention to it. The outbound markets that you're sending your customers freight into, because that has a direct correlation to what the rates are going to be heading in there. As always, if you want your lane broken down on the show, email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. I just need shipping city, delivery city, and trailer type. And again, you guys, all of this is for helping you understand, like, how do you read a market? Because it's very easy to look at national averages and be completely wrong if you're going to go out there and price that, right? Because and then furthermore, I've seen multiple market swings in my career. I've been a part of it. I don't get offended anymore anyways when drivers ask for more money. It's part of the game. But I see a lot of people having a tough time comprehending drivers asking for more money, even if they want $500 more dollars or $1,000 more dollars than what you have in the load. I mean, why not, right? What if somebody pays that? So they're going to do that. But most importantly, you guys, the market is going to perform in the way that it always does, but there are some key stability points that you need to look at. But like what you're going through right now isn't going to last forever, all right? There will be at some point this year a stabilization factor that comes in. At least there has been in the past. And like I always like to say, you guys, I could be wrong, but there should be a stabilization point that comes in. It might be as late as the 4th of July, though, this year, because when we're seeing a lot of this rapid increase in rates, I could see it continuing to rise up here for a little bit because they're going to use the holidays and everything else. And then summertime rates, and it's always a higher time to move freight. But I think this could legitimately continue to rise through the 4th of July. That's kind of where my gut is on it. And if you're in a truck in hand style or a spot market style pricing with your customers, you're in a very, very strong position here in the next coming weeks. If you're in that contracted rate, you never know. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have already rebid some of their lanes and have already asked for a rebid. But again, to me, it's as simple as this, you guys. The individual with the truck is going to win. And my guest yesterday on the show, Nick Dangles, we were talking about building a capacity base and not always utilizing load boards to just be your only approach to find pricing and capacity. It's a great tool to utilize right away. But after you found that carrier base that's out there, you want to stay off network with the majority of your freight and go to them first. Even if they are asking for a little bit more money right now, it's probably in line with the market. And I look at it like this: if I'm going to pay $500 more to move this load, I would rather put it on somebody that I've worked with multiple times. I want to get them money. I want them to make more money on their freight because I'm not a selective capitalist. I don't look at it as how do I, as a broker, make the most money as possible. Yes, I want to make a lot of money, but I also want my carrier partners to make money, and I want my customers to make money on this stuff as well, because if nobody is, everybody goes out of business, and then we're in a really, really tough spot overall. So I think, again, I think this is going to go through the 4th of July at minimum. Could be longer, could be shorter. I don't know. Nobody knows. A lot of people put a lot of predictions out there, but yeah, let's break down some articles here, you guys, and shout out to everybody watching over on YouTube. And the audio only replay for this, you guys, will be up on iTunes and Spotify a little bit later on today. But I know it's beer 30 for a lot of people. Getting pretty close because it's almost whatchamacallit here, noon East Coast time. But let's break down some articles here. The first one is going to be from ttnews.com, and that is highway bill would expand access to truck parking. House legislation also invests in roads and bridges, including provisions on cargo theft, safety, and autonomous trucks. Again, you guys, the links to all of these articles are going to be in the show notes for you guys to check out. So the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee has unveiled, I went to public school, the Build America 250 Act, a 5-year, $580 billion surface transportation reauthorization bill designed to replace the current Infrastructure Act before it expires on September 30th. A massive highlight of this legislation is dedicated $750 million competitive grant program for expanding truck parking. Additionally, the bill includes provisions mandating that shippers and receivers provide drivers with restroom access during freight pickup and delivery. Beyond driver comfort, the bill sharpens the federal focus on ELD compliance, fraud prevention, and autonomous trucks. So, the first one, obviously with truck parking. And I know, it's funny. I see a lot of people out there complaining about truck parking. And, I love the guys over at Truck Parking Club. They've been on my show numerous times. I'm a massive fan of what they're building out there. But it's I don't understand why people take offense to somebody trying to monetize their property, right? Because it's not like a lot of these truck parking facilities own the property, right? There's a lot of private businesses and private entities that have a fenced-in secure yard, and they monetize that, right? And I think that is where that is a capitalistic culture. People are going to find ways to make money with their assets that are out there. But again, we do need to expand truck parking access out there. I think every time you drive onto the freeway in the early mornings or late at night, you see drivers lined up on the side of them there, and it's not a safe environment for them, right? And I also look at it as where when we're building out this infrastructure, and again, pardon me, I didn't do my in-depth research on the fact that I thought we just did the Biden administration did $1 trillion infrastructure act a couple of years ago. So I don't know if that was only apparently for 12 or 24 months, because they said that the current one expires here later on this year. But having more access to truck parking is going to be a massive benefit for the industry. I look at it from my perspective is if a private business decides whatever they decide to do with their property to charge, The beautiful thing of the free market, you guys, is you can choose to not do that. You can choose to not park there. And I know a lot of you might be like, oh, it's simple for you to say you're in an office all day. You're right. I am in an office all day. But I also understand that not everybody charges for parking. And if you don't want to pay for parking, you don't have to. But, I pay attention to a lot of this stuff all over social media and what I see out there from the roads. And I get it, right? Like people feel like they're being nickel and dimed out there. But, a lot of these truck stops, they're charging for a lot of things. And I saw a couple of examples where it's like, if you pay for parking, you get a free shower. And it was kind of like the same price. Again, I could be off a little bit on that, but if you're going to pay for a shower anyways, and I know some of those are like $17, I'm not justifying the price here or anything like that. But I look at that is they're going to find ways to kind of sweeten the deal to get you to go, because it's going to drive more and more competition out there. And again, why would you pay $25 to park at a place that doesn't have any amenities, right? So I think like it could improve in due time. It just kind of sucks in the beginning phase here, and according to some people that I see out there. The second part about this is having shippers and receivers are going to be legally required to grant CDL driver restroom access during loading and unloading, eliminating a long-standing industry friction point. I think that is a great idea. I truly, truly do. I also see both sides of the fence, right? Where it's like, and I think that this is the subjectiveness that individuals need to start looking through that lens, because I know that, you've gone to an airport bathroom before, right? Most people are civilized with it. They clean up after themselves, they wipe down the counters, but then you have some absolute savages who destroy the bathrooms, right? If you've ever been to an airport, I travel pretty often. I see it and it's disgusting. And I think that's what probably drove a lot of this. I don't know if government mandating it is going to fix the problem to force a private business to do something. I do think drivers deserve access to bathrooms. Like, I think it's basic human dignity. I agree with that point, but it's going to be interesting to see on this, right? Because like, if the bathroom gets destroyed by a couple of drivers, is that going to be continued? Are they going to have proof to show? They're going to document it, and then they're going to be able to get an exemption from that? I'm not sure. I don't know that, but I think like, again, yeah, it's great that they're going to be mandating this, but again, you use the airport or the public facilities, that you see out there. If you ever go into a gas station, like it's disgusting with some of those bathrooms that you see out there. And it's not everybody, but it's a couple of people who ruin it for everybody, right? So I think that came about here for a reason, unfortunately, and hopefully they can find a solution. Hopefully they can find a livable solution for all people, because I don't want to go into a restroom and see feces all over the wall. All right, it's disgusting. We've all seen it if you've been to a public bathroom before. Those are the individuals who shouldn't be allowed to use it. I think we can all agree on that, right? If you defecate on a public place like that, you shouldn't be allowed to use a bathroom. Go out in the woods like the animal that you are. But for the 99% of the other individuals that do the right thing and clean up after themselves, this is great. The autonomous framework. The legislation establishes strict federal guidelines and testing parameters for autonomous commercial vehicles. And then it's also signaling Washington's intent to standardize driverless technology. I am not naive to think that driverless technology isn't going to be a thing in the future. I know that there's a lot of companies investing billions and billions of dollars into testing a lot of this out. I see driverless technology being widespread adopted, but in the sense of like with airplanes, for example, and I've used this example on the show hundreds of times. Planes have essentially been flying themselves for like 35 years, right? Autopilot, everything else. I could see that making its way into trucking from that perspective. I could see a lot of the short hauls maybe being autonomous, but like I think that there's a lot of stuff from a legislation perspective that needs to be ironed out before it's like widespread adoption of that, right? Like, again, I'm not getting on an airplane if there's not two pilots in the cockpit. I do not care. I don't even care if 99.9% of the time it is on autopilot. It's the comfortness of knowing that there are two highly trained professionals in there in the event the technology fails. And I think that is what is going to happen probably from the autonomous framework here that we are seeing. And then also like the vetting side of things. And it said hidden inside the infrastructure spend are enhanced tools for the FMCSA to cross-reference data in real time, aiming to block fraudulent entities from right at the registration phase. And again, I had the FMCSA on the show. I had Mr. Ken Riddle on the show last week to talk about Modus, which is the new onboarding system. There's a lot of great tools in there. And again, it's very early on. There's a big adoption period. There's going to be a rollout. There's probably going to be some things that need to be ironed out in time. But I think their ability to stop a lot of these fraudulent actors from gaining access into that and then finding these cells of businesses that are 400 of them registered at a PO box in some random city out there, that is going to be a good thing. And if we can get that and cut that access off, I think that is going to be a massive improvement to the industry overall. I truly do. I think it's a win for the right providers, right? I think that's where I stand with a lot of this. I want any and all fraudulent actors taken out of the industry. I want them criminally prosecuted. I want them to be like, I want it to be so bad that it stops the next person from even thinking about it, right? Because they're like, damn, that guy got 50 years in prison. I don't know if this $20,000 load of fucking cotton swabs is worth it, right? So it's like, I just look at it from that perspective. We need very intense repercussions that are out there. And then again, I think that we're beyond a lot of the standard thing. I think this is a matter of national security. And I'm going to tie all of that in here because, again, I say it's a matter of national security because there is state-sponsored terrorism of foreign entities that are infiltrating the supply chain. And they're doing a lot of this stuff, right? It's very, very well documented out there. But, then to kind of tie this in, right? Like, obviously, everybody's aware of what happened last week with the SCOTUS decision. I purposefully waited to talk about this because, I don't want to be the first one to talk about anything. I want to take some time and digest a lot of the information that I see out there. And, again, everyone's a legal scholar. Now it's great to know that everybody has a JD out there on social media. And if you don't know what a JD is, you're part of the problem. I look at with what was brought down, and I've already said this, but I'm going to state it again. I'm against this ruling. I want safer roads. Yes. But I'm against this ruling because I think it just made it a lot harder for all providers, i.e. brokers and carriers alike. I truly think it did. Now, hear me out on this. And I know every driver out there that has been celebrating, they think that this is going to be the death of freight brokers. Now they can just get direct access to customers and cut out freight brokers who are all thieves and everything out there. And again, I get why some of you guys feel that way. I will never, ever, ever defend unethical behaviors by the freight brokerage community. But one thing the big thing that stands out to me with all of this is risk mitigation. Okay. Now I think we're at a point where shippers are now, I personally feel like this, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a broker. Shippers are now going to leverage brokers a lot more than they did in the past. And I say that due to the risk mitigation factor, because now I'm assuming, again, I could be wrong on all of this, but I'm assuming every single legal department of every manufacturer, supplier, insert everything that ships products that has direct relationships with carriers are looking through all of this now, because that ruling essentially said if a shipper tenders a load directly to a carrier, they're liable now if anything happens, right? So if you're looking at it from a pure play risk perspective, a lot of business are going to be like, damn, nuclear verdicts are what? We're liable for that potentially now? How do we pass that buck on to somebody else, right? So I'm not saying that this is happening everywhere, but I could see how a business would do that now, right? And brokers are the most logical way because they've already been doing it. I look at it that, I saw a stat that it's like 90% of trucks on the road don't have any safety rating at all, right? So I'm assuming most of these shippers who go direct to a carrier, even if they've been working with them for years, if that carrier doesn't have any recent safety data or anything like that, they might stop getting access to their freight because they can't show that they are a safe and compliant carrier, right? And I think that this could be coming downstream here. I'm not going to say it's going to happen this year, I think it's going to happen in the near future, though, because how, if you can't prove now that you're a safe and legitimate carrier because the FMCSA doesn't have any safety record for you on file, and the shippers are using the FMCSA data to vet all of this stuff, that could cause a problem for you, right? Same thing with every single broker that now would be booking any direct, obviously brokers book carriers. Now, any broker out there, if that carrier doesn't have any safety rating, or maybe they have a conditional rating from 3 years ago that a bad apple driver caused it, they might stop getting access to freight now because things change. The risk is massive here now in a lot of these situations. And again, I look at it for all of the individuals who are saying that all brokers are shit. We only hire negligent carriers and everything else. There was a recent article I saw here this week where there was a driver in California who unfortunately killed 2 young individuals. I think they were like 19 and 20 years old. And I believe it was in Lodi. Turns out that individual got into the country illegally, obtained a CDL illegally from the looks of it, and then hit and killed 2 people. So if that was a broker who booked that carrier and none of that was listed on there, how are we supposed to know? So it's like, is it the broker's fault in that situation? Or should that driver have never been in the country? And that situation was immediately that situation was avoidable, right? Because it's like, if I look at it where it's like, if we're looking at, and I'm not saying all fucking illegal are causing crashes and shit like that. I'm just using that as an example, because if that carrier showed compliant on FMCSA, they passed everything, had great safety scores, but they made a bad driver hiring choice. How is that on us as a broker? I'm genuinely, I would love to have a logical discussion with somebody about that. Because in my opinion, that is a fault of whoever issued them a CDL, whether it was legal or illegal. And how is that individual even allowed in the country, right? So it's like there are multiple factors that should stop any of that behavior from getting to this point. But it's like, as a broker, and I know that there was an article from Overdrive Online out there, like it's that it says in that article specifically, does anyone really think that when a broker meets with their shipper customers, they tell them it's impossible for us to evaluate carrier safety if they are authorized by the FMCSA? And then a driver said it was a full cop out to say that. But it again, if we're using that data from the FMCSA, again, we vet all of our providers thoroughly. I've always vetted all of our providers thoroughly out there, and I can only go off of so much information. Our carrier selection strategy is very thorough, and I'm not saying that this is everywhere, right? And one thing I want, and I would love to see happen, is to stop broad stroking every single trucking company into one basket, and every single freight brokerage into one basket, and every single shipper into one basket, because it's not, right? It's not the case. I've been doing this job for a very, very, very long time. I do not talk about the negative interactions that I've had with the drivers and the fleets out there. I don't, because it's such a small subset of the industry that it's not worth my time, because there are so many people out there that do the right thing. Just like within the brokerage community, not everybody's great, but not everybody is just fucking running around like the Wild West out here. I think that what is going to come down from this ultimately is there are going to be a lot of lawsuits filed against the FMCSA. I feel that way in the Department of Transportation. I don't know when or how or anything like that. But I ultimately think that the biggest losers of all of this here, I truly feel this way, is going to be the driver community. And it's based on the fact of the data that like 90% of the trucks that are in there don't have any safety rating at all. I think you are now going to be removed from any and all consideration for freight for the foreseeable future. And again, a lot of you who are screaming that the brokers use the FMCSA data, it is that said organization that could be prohibiting you in the near future from getting any freight. Because most shippers, I would assume, like I had said, are going to look at it from this perspective. If I've been working with a provider for, say, 5 years, and I go, and it's a direct carrier, and I go and they don't have a safety rating, or they have become conditional and they were not made aware that they're conditional, they might instantly lose access to all of that business. Where is a shipper going to naturally turn to in that environment? I think they might go to a broker to establish that, because most brokers are going to be willing to take on that risk at that point, right? And they're going to go out there, going to find that more capacity. I think that at the end of the day, things are going to get worse before they get better. Again, I hope I'm wrong here, you guys. I do. I just think from a risk perspective alone, I could see shippers stopping working directly with drivers of a certain fleet size, especially if you can't prove your safety scores, if you're conditional in any way, shape, or form. I think that that's going to be a hurdle that hasn't been felt yet, but could be felt. I think the larger fleets are going to be the proven winners here, probably. And that's because they have all of that stuff in line. I think where they're going to win from in the short term, anyways, why a lot of this gets ironed out is if there was any exclusions from shippers about certain things, they're all renegotiating all of that stuff right now. The savvy ones are, anyways. But I look at this as, again, I'm against this ruling. I truly am, because I think it made it a lot worse for the smaller fleets than most can comprehend in this moment, right? I think that, I'm not saying the brokers won here by any stretch of the imagination. I think that it just made our jobs a little bit more interesting, I'll say. And, for all of those individuals who are like, oh, if you have a documented carrier selection process, you'll be fine. The fuck you will be fine. If you've ever been sued, which unfortunately I have been sued, it doesn't matter kind of like your SOPs and shit. It's more along the lines of what the fucking attorneys can prove in court. And they will dissect every single thing you do or say or interact with that situation, right? So it's like, it's not as simple as having, just have rock solid SOPs and a rock solid carrier selection strategy. That is going to be proven false in the next case. And I just saw an article break here before the show that there is a past court decision that is now being reopened back up with another very large broker. I'm not going to mention any names because I didn't read into it entirely yet, but this case was supposedly won by this broker a couple of years ago. And since this ruling, it is now being appealed because of this. All right. So it's going to get interesting here. I think it's going to be worse for the smaller companies here that can't prove that, like to the 90-some% that don't have a safety score with the FMCSA. I think it's going to get really, really challenging for you guys here, potentially coming up. Again, I could be wrong, but I just look at it as, from a risk standpoint alone, I could see a lot of shippers stopping working directly with carriers of a certain size, especially if they can't prove their safety scores, which is, by the FMCSA. And then especially if they have any negative knocks on their record at all, a couple of years ago, put out a service for whatever, I think it could get very challenging out there. But that's going to be it for today. I can't be any more clear. I'm against this ruling at all, but I look at it as it just made it a lot more challenging for individuals of all walks of the industry. But ultimately, the next ruling of this, I think, is going to be the most consequential, even more consequential than this one from the Supreme Court, because it's going to be what your attorney can prove. And if there's a broker out there who has a rock solid process, they did everything right, and they're still found guilty and liable, I think it's going to really fundamentally change everything at that time. I don't know when that next one's going to happen, but I guarantee if I'm already seeing one high profile case being appealed that was ruled in favor of the broker, I could fucking only imagine the amount of them that are going to be coming down the pipeline here, you guys, as of late. So keep your head on a swivel. That's going to be it for today, you guys. We won't be live on Monday due to the holiday, and we will be back on Tuesday. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling ambitious, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm get to the back. Hey, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast.